Hey gang, Melissa Hinault here with the Burnout to All Out podcast. I'm a mom of three, corporate burnout that built a secondary six-figure income around my 9-to-5 with little kids. This set me free and allowed me to fire my boss and pursue my wildest dreams. It took grit, persistence, and belief. But now, operating multiple six-figure businesses as an online entrepreneur and business coach, I have become a serial entrepreneur with a passion to inspire more burnouts to take the leap and go all out and live out their dreams. Each week, I'll bring you inspiring all-out guests, lifestyle business tips and tools to empower you to take the leap from burnout employee to all-out entrepreneur, making your passion your paycheck. If this mom of three, corporate burnout, can go all out, so can you. Today, it's all about money, and I'm going to talk to you about the truth and how I was able to 3x my income this past year. How I was able to make over $500,000 in my businesses. But also, the truth of the matter is I invested over $50,000 in coaches last year. Now, your story could be different. I didn't start there. I started with a low buy-in with a life coach for a small minimal amount before this year that really got the ball rolling for me. But the bottom line is this podcast today, I unveil for you in transparency what investments it took for me financially to get to where I was by the end of 2020 with my businesses. And I think it's important as entrepreneurs, you see and hear the story behind the story, the willingness to invest, the unwillingness to do the work, the willingness to seek out the experts that are going to take you where you need to go. I hope you enjoy this podcast. All right. Welcome to this Money Minute. And this is going to be a quick one on investing in yourself as the asset you are. If you are an online entrepreneur, your skill sets, your mindset, and your knowledge is your asset. I'll say that again. Your skill set, your mindset, and your knowledge is your asset. And if you are flatlined and you're not growing, I would ask yourself, what are you doing to invest in yourself? I'm going to give you guys like full disclosure and a peek behind the curtain. I just did our numbers for our taxes this year, like literally just finished them like 3 days ago. And I found it eye-opening how much money I invested in myself this past year. I invested just about $50,000 on the tail end of 2019 and in the year of 2020 in myself between coaches and masterminds. And I know for some of you guys are thinking that is insane, right? It didn't start there. You'll actually hear in a couple weeks from my life coach, which was the very first person I ever hired for $150 an hour, 2 sessions a month. That's where it started for me. That actually allowed to break through the plateau and the place that I was in my mind. And she helped me see and build confidence for an idea I ultimately ran after that became a $500,000 business last year. Let's talk about it. Here's the thing, it's crazy the transformation I've seen in myself and many of you have witnessed and in my business in the past year and a half. As of today, so we did about $500,000 last year. As of today, we've done about 600,000 in sales total with a business that was launched at the tail end of 2019, really the beginning, the first big launch, the first real group I launched it to was January of 2020. And I'm sharing these numbers with you because I want you to get some perspective, okay? This is not a bragging session. This is giving you perspective on how you have to invest to get a gain, right? So in a little over 365 days, I've gone from $0 to $600,000 in sales. How do you do that? Right? You invest. It's like the number one thing I see that entrepreneurs fail to do is to actually spend more money back in on themselves and in their businesses and really put gasoline on the fire, right? So let me take you back. Let me take you back to the tail end of October 2019. when I'd been investing in that $150 a session life coach who really gave me the idea and the confidence that I was really onto something with LinkedIn and that I really could monetize it, right? And at that point, I decided I've got to invest in a coach. The mindset coach has been great, but I need to invest in a coach who's scaled online businesses and is making millions. That is also a mindset coach, right? Like I knew exactly what I was looking for. I was looking for someone who could help me with my mindset, but was also very connected with the people and the resources I needed to lift off my idea, not to mention really craft and cultivate and flesh out my idea. So I leaned in and I invested $12,000 in a coach that it made me want to throw up. When I invested that, I never invested that kind of money in myself, ever. But I'm telling you right now that the transformation, I say this all the time, the transformation was in the transaction. It was in the transaction. I had so much skin in the game to be successful that I was going to do everything she told me to do, whether I thought she was crazy or not, because I invested, right? I invested. So here's the deal. Again, running numbers, by January of 2020, I had already made my return on my investment with her and was seeing financial gains and a profit. I was hooked. Now, I could have pocketed it. I could have started spending it. But what did I start doing? I started investing in a better website. I started investing in staff. I started investing in really technology and to really, really create more ease and streamline and prepare for the growth in the customer service and embrace and welcome abundance that was about to come my way, right? So I realized seeking expertise from those who've gone before you is the secret ingredient to grow yourself. It's one thing to have books, guys. It's one thing to be following people and listening to me on a podcast, but when you invest in a mastermind or you invest in a coach, you can't hide from your bullshit. I'm going to say that again. When you hire a coach or you invest in a mastermind, you cannot hide from your bullshit. It's even harder to hide from your own bullshit when you've got a one-on-one coach. It's a little easier to hide in a mastermind, right? But you have to pay to play. You have to pay to play. So many social sellers, especially in network marketing, are brainwashed, and it's ingrained in them that they should get all their coaching for free from their uplines. And if it's not for free, like it's not for them. And I really call that a poor mindset long-term. And you'll plateau and you'll stagnate at some point, especially if you're leaning on your upline and you outperform them. What happens when you outperform them? What happens when you up level? What happens when what they're coaching you doesn't work anymore? What happens when the business is flat? What happens when you outgrow their vision? You outgrow their strategy, right? My thing is, and I've always been this way, invest to grow, to put gasoline on the fire, right? We had a workshop in my mastermind just last week with an accountant who said the number one thing he sees entrepreneurs fail at is not reinvesting enough back into their business when they're in momentum to put gasoline on that fire, right? If I had not reinvested last year, think about it, guys. Yes, I made $500,000 last year, but I started 12 grand in the hole with a coach and an idea, right? And as the money started to come in, I could have pocketed it. I guarantee you I wouldn't have done $500,000 in sales if I just kept the money. I poured it back into the universe. I poured it back into resources. I poured it back into experts. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. So midway through 2020, I hit six figures in sales. I hit six figures in sales of my new business. And I knew we were on to a great business model that would drive results for so many people. And not only create financial freedom for my clients, but I was starting to build an additional income stream and another legacy stream for my family, right? But I knew with the growth of my company, I needed a strategist who could coach me on how to scale the impact of my business. My first coach that I hired was phenomenal with mindset, phenomenal with holding me accountable to taking action, phenomenal with getting me the right connections for the tools, the right connection to implement. But I needed systems to scale. Now, I could have stayed where I was with my business last year and been happy with the $100,000 I made, right? But what did I do, guys? You guessed it. And I have to tell you, I invested another $17,000 in another mastermind called the Unstoppable Entrepreneurs. And my husband was cringing while he was watching me do all of this because I love him. He's learned a lot working alongside me, but he lives in that linear, showing up to get paid mindset. And he doesn't really understand the investment in business and entrepreneurship. He's definitely getting it now. He's definitely getting it now. But when we were balancing the budget sheet last year, I want you to keep in mind, I'd just gotten up to about $100,000 in sales when I'd already spent 12 grand on a coach. And then I jumped in and spent 17 grand more on a mastermind. And then you've got to take taxes out, right? You got to take taxes out. So I was really about dead even when you think about it at that point. Dead even between my income and the investment and the taxes and what I was paying my staff to help scale. Okay. But that's what we do as entrepreneurs. You take calculated risks to put gasoline on the fire and make your business explode. What happened next will go down in history. I joined the Unstoppable Entrepreneurs at just the right time, where during that month, they were able to coach me a step-by-step business plan to create a launch. In the same month, I was proposed a private coaching mastermind with some top income earners in a particular company. And if it wasn't for me hiring and joining in the Unstoppable Entrepreneurs, I would have had no reference point on pricing, scaling, organization, or any of the things, because you see, I'd only launched courses up to that point that were very start-stop. And this company taught me how to take a short-term course and make it a long-term 6-month program that created impact beyond measure for my students. Hey, you. Yeah, you. Thanks for listening to the podcast. I wanted to interrupt for a quick second to fill you in on what's up in the LinkedIn Academy this month, along with all the modules and workshops that I've put together to condense the time it will take to help you 10x your business. I've recently had 3 incredible world-renowned guest speakers inside the Academy exclusively coaching students to level up in their mindset. What's happening is the students are not only creating the business they've always wanted, but they're having shifts in their mindset at the same time to live their best life possible. Head to my website, livethefreelife.co, and click the LinkedIn Method Academy to learn more. And what happened next? What happened next was within that single month in October after joining the Unstoppable Entrepreneurs, we did $245,000 in sales in 1 month. Now we're on to something, right? If you guys start running the numbers in your head, that is what I'm talking about when we talk about putting gasoline on the fire. You can keep the money in your pockets, or you can recirculate it through the universe for the experts that are going to help you show up in a way that's going to generate even more revenue, tenfold more than you could have ever imagined, because you realize the experts could raise the bar for you. They could raise the lid for you. Now, I have to say, I showed up. Now, there's a difference between investing in programs and investing in coaches and not doing the work. You have to be ready to do the work. But when you invest that much, you show up. You show up. Now, it's interesting because coincidentally, I was also realizing the importance of surrounding myself with other entrepreneurial women who had crazy financial and life goals like me and invested in a mommy millionaire mastermind. Okay. Some of you guys are probably thinking, this is bananas, right? This is bananas. I spent $18,000 to pull up the chair to a table with women who made me look small. They made me look small. What does that do? What does that do? You have a choice in life when you join a group like that. You can either hide in a corner and be intimidated, or you can be inspired and pull up a chair and start asking questions. And that is exactly what I did. These women inspired the hell out of me. When you live in a small area, small town in the middle of quarantine, driving a multi six-figure business from home on your computer, if you don't have a community that's doing what you're doing to lift you up and inspire you, to strategize with you, you can get lost pretty quickly. What's amazing about technology is that you can invest in programs where you can be connected with like-minded people to help move the needle, move you along, and become the dearest of friends for life, by the way. Okay. So here's the point I'm going on with this. And your numbers will look very different depending on the listener. I want you to think back to my first investment in a life coach of $150 a session, right? It was that first step in willingness to grow myself that catapulted me into serial investments that turned into serial gains, right? So with every growth phase, major value and investment in myself, because I am the asset to the business, right? Versus keeping the gains to myself, which would have slowed the progression of my business, right? Okay, guys, there's a cherry on top. That wasn't all last year. That wasn't all. That October month that shot me up in sales to over $245,000 in 1 month catapulted my business in a massive, massive trajectory of growth and scale that I had so many questions about employment, about org charts and organization and how I could structure with the volume of people coming through and still create value, that I had to level up. I was offered a seat at the table with the legacy program within Unstoppable Entrepreneurs, which is a tier above the entry-level program I was in. I had so many questions about scaling beyond where I started that they said, you really need to invest in the legacy program. It's a program for business owners who are scaling to $1 million a year. What did I do, guys? What did I do? Guess what I did? I turned around and wrote a check for $12,000 and jumped in to a whole new layer and level of entrepreneurs that are to this day blowing me away with the businesses and the value and the services and the knowledge that they have, raising the bar weekly for me and educating me weekly, right? Pour gasoline on the fire, right? Does this sound crazy? Does it sound crazy? Have you ever invested in yourself to create hypergrowth? It doesn't have to be $12,000. But have you ever committed to yourself in a way that you've said, I am worth it. I know where I'm headed, but I need the expertise to get me there, right? So let's sum it up. I spent $17,000 in 2020 on Unstoppable Entrepreneurs. I spent $18,000 in a mastermind. And I spent $12,000 to upgrade the Unstoppable Entrepreneurs program, right? That doesn't even include the $12,000 I spent on my private coach at the tail end of 2019 that was also a portion of 2020, right? So my math is really bad, but I spent a good bit, $50,000 plus in development. $50,000 in development and made $500,000 last year. I would say the ROI was there. Now, I could have not done the serial investments over and over and over again with the gains. I could have not thought out the next level of expert. And I could have stayed flat and been happy with where I was with my business. I could have. But what I've learned by seeking expert advice and studying entrepreneurship is that you have to pour gasoline on the fire. You have to continue to invest in yourself and seek experts, right? So the bottom line is 2020, I 3x'd my income from the year before. And I'm looking to do $1 million this year. I'm calling it out to the universe, right? Your numbers may look very different. They may look bigger. They may look smaller. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The story and the message is still the same. It's still the same. You need to find coaches who are where you want to be and invest in yourself as the transformation happens in the transaction, right? Investing and pulling up a chair with like-minded folks for that invaluable motivation and example of where you can go next. It's really you stepping up and recognizing your value and your worth to commit to change, to commit to evolve. It's scary. Guys, with every invoice for every coach and every mastermind I've ever committed to over the past year, don't you know I almost wanted to throw up with each one? Sweaty palms. But I also, with each invoice, got a little more excited and a little bit more anticipation because I knew what had happened in the past when I invested. And now I'm addicted to investing in the experts to grow and grow and grow. Now, the key is you have to do the work, right? Don't get into the habit of investing, but not making space for action, right? And with each invoice I process, no matter how much, I'm now full of gratitude of the ability to move money through the universe as an energetic force that I'm pushing out to an expert or an expert program in massive gratitude that they've put together a program or a course or coaching that's customized to specifically what I need, knowing that putting that money and energy out into the universe is going to come back to me tenfold. So how can you get started investing in yourself today to shatter your own glass ceiling? Maybe it's a life coach to just work on your mind. Maybe it's a mindset coach. Maybe you need a business coach, or maybe it's a mastermind that you need to get yourself into to pull the chair up and raise the bar, right? Or maybe, it's someone you really look up to and you don't even know that they have any private coaching. Reach out to them. If they are living the life that you desire and they are building a business that you desire to build, pay them for their time. Ask them, hey, I really admire what you're doing right now. I would love to pay you an hourly rate to pick your brain, right? Guys, I'm telling you right now, the transformation is in the transaction. You invest, you get the ROI, you shatter the glass ceiling. There's one place in the world where there's not a lot of textbooks to become an expert, and that's in entrepreneurship. You have to seek out the experts to help you grow. You truly do. I hope you guys have enjoyed this podcast. Thanks for listening to the Burnout to All Out podcast. For free resources, materials, or information on my coaching services, go ahead over to livethefreelife.co. That's livethefreelife.co. Or check out our Facebook community at Burnout to All Out, and make sure you follow Burnout to All Out on Spotify and subscribe to iTunes. And it would truly mean the world to me if you paused for just a second, gave me that 5-star review of the show, and be sure to share this episode with any burnouts you think would be inspired to go all out after hearing this episode.